You're running a shop floor, not a Pinterest interest board or a fantasy football league. You don't need inspiration, you need things to work. So welcome to Build Your Way, a podcast from Cetec ERP. This is a show for manufacturers who are in it every day, from quoting and shipping jobs to troubleshooting quality and material shortages, all while staying a step ahead of what's next. We bring you stories from the field, lessons that stick, and strategies that actually scale to help you build better. Let's get to work.
Hi, welcome back to the Cetec ERP Build Your Way podcast. This is Taylor Wagon and
Scott Ryan. And this week we have Lee Norris with Big Gun Robotics. Lee, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, glad to be here, guys.
Lee is in the top 3 of beards amongst our customer base.
Easily.
Maybe top 2, and he's not number 2.
Yeah, well, I may be in the top 3, but the other 2 send me Christmas cards every year. So,
oh, that's good.
It's good. I'm working on that.
Yeah, I'm winterizing the flannel, the beard.
I pull my skin. Yeah. Good chap. I tend to grow my my facial hair every like the winterish era. So I get like 6 months this way, which my wife is, generally a big fan of. And then it gets warm out here and I just shave it all off.
Do you ever get like one of those Brazilian waxes on your face?
Probably should. Nice and soft. Might make me look younger.
Moisturized. Great. Well, Taylor, do you want to share your book?
All right. It's the daily book.
Book time.
This one here is a library cast off out of the Barnes & Noble printing. From some library somewhere. It's stamped in here that it's discarded by the Easttown Library. Sad cast-offs. It is a Russian novel, The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And it's a fantastic book. I first read this book on my honeymoon, which was a long, long time ago.
That's the most wagon thing.
bless your heart.
Let me just read this 1,200-page Russian novel on my honeymoon.
It's a great book. It really is. It's one of the best. Have you ever read this?
No.
Lee, did you ever read this one?
I am not familiar with the author, though. Definitely something to look at.
If you ever read your honeymoon, you can. I would recommend, maybe grabbing this guy.
I've read more Tolstoy than.
I prefer Dostoevsky to Tolstoy. And the thing that, it's about 3 brothers, and they're all versions of, some kind of depravity, failure, all kind of questing for, truth and virtue. They kind of take different paths in their like explorations of what that is like. And the reason I picked this book today, it is one of my all-time favorite books, but because we are going to be talking with Lee, and Lee has his own little story of kind of journeying through all kinds of different options in the wasteland, and I thought it might fit the existential nature of the whole thing. And Dostoevsky is sometimes considered the father of existentialism. So,
then I definitely need to read more.
Yeah, it's good. It's all kinds of fields.
Yeah, Lee. Do you have any book or podcast recommendations? Share your wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, I appreciate the book reference there, Taylor. Of course, you know me well enough to know I like to think pretty deep on some subjects, and we've had a lot of conversations on philosophical things. And of course, we always seem to tie up religion and worldview and all these other things up in there that are fun for us to think and talk through. So I appreciate that book reference. The book that helped me the most from a business perspective. I'm not really into self-help books. I'm not big into the seven steps for this or 3 ways of making you a better person. I just always feel they're shallow and usually leave you wanting. And for me, they tend to have a wrong worldview that focuses too much on the self and not enough on other factors. And so I'm not ashamed of the worldview that I hold. It's a Christian worldview. And so I don't think I can decouple myself from that worldview. So the book that helped me the most is a book by a gentleman named David Bahnsen. And the book is called Full Time, The Work and Meaning of Life. And it was really helpful for me because the book really aligned with what I believe is the truth about work and its purpose and the calling of an individual and just the character of a person. He says, your work is a direct reflection of who you are, and it's not only a duty to everyone to work, but it's also a responsibility, but it's also something that is good for us and something that we should desire to do.
At least kind of a road out of the, like existential dread of having to go to work on Monday instead of kind of leaning into the meaning of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what the intent is. Work is a good thing. Of course, our bodies, our natures make us want to groan and complain about work, but work is actually good for us. And it's one of those things that, we've all, cut our own grass, and you finish the work and you look back over it and you go, man, that looks so good. That's a beautiful thing. I really take pride in that. But I think we need to take that approach in everything that we do, especially our career paths, and, not be so burdened by having to get up and go through that 9 to 5, but more grateful, thankful, and appreciative of the responsibility and the duty that we've all been called to do, and appreciative of that work and what it can lead to for our life. It's a good thing for us.
Makes me think of one of our customers' like slogans. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. Oh, yeah, that's good. And not everybody cuts their own grass.
I don't think I have any grass, I'm very happy to say.
Oh, so that's a different problem.
We'll weasel out of that one.
Yeah, well, Lee, thanks for that. That's we're gonna add it. We'll have to figure out how to add
books to the shelf.
Add all these books to the shelf. We've got a couple good ones so far. Yeah, well, Lee, will you share a little bit about your background, your history in manufacturing, and really like the story of how Big Gun became to be, and how you picked the name?
Yeah, it's an interesting name. We get a lot of questions about the name, but going back into the well a little bit. So I'm a co-owner with my business partner, but also my really good friend, Jim Page. And Jim and I go all the way back into school days, like early middle school days. And coming out of college, we kind of, coming out of high school, went to college, went our separate ways. And I kind of went into the metal fabrication business, but I was more in the logistics. And Jim went into material and metal also at the same time, just with a different company and completely different locations. And we had kind of lost contact for a little while. We were sitting there hanging out one day together, and he was telling me a little bit about what he was doing. And so it's interesting, I'm kind of doing similar work for this company. And he said, well, the company I'm in, they're giving me an opportunity to take it over and kind of be the head guy, the plant manager for a while. And I really got to make this thing a success, and that leaves a void in my position. I'd love for you to come on my team. And so long story short, that's how the journey really started. And we started managing this company, and I kind of worked my way up into kind of his right-hand man. And we just kind of took this company, and we were managing. It was a manufacturing company that we were managing, and they were a Canadian company, and so they were not on site. We're in South Carolina here. So we were just young and eager and really wanted to be something. And so we said, we're going to take this and we're going to manage it to the best of our abilities with our limited knowledge. And we started, kind of honing in on the processes and procedures, and we were getting the attention of the owners, and they were thankful for the work we were putting in, and the company was becoming more and more profitable. That company, being a Canadian company that we were managing, decided that they had to downsize and move a lot of their operations back to Canada. And so they didn't need the location here in South Carolina anymore. Over the next year or so, we set out to try to find other equipment manufacturers that we could produce for in the name of saving this company. But Jim and I were looking at all these assets saying, look, we didn't get into this to let it end here. What can we do? And so we're like, let's just buy it. Let's see if we can figure out a way to buy the assets. We'll go back to this customer. We'll see if there's any interest in working with us. And like a lot of startup businesses, I think we were 24 at the time when we were entertaining this. We were two 24-year-olds drawing a couple $100 a month on unemployment. Found a way through grinding and just commitments and working hard and grit to put together a package to grab the assets. We we got the commitment from the customer to do business with us. It was Jim and myself, and we hired Mike Harmon, our operations director. In 2014, July of 2014, Big Gun Robotics opened the door, building skid steer arms for JCB out of Savannah, Georgia. And we were building 10 a day of these things. And Jim and myself and Mike were welding and producing. I was doing all the back end office stuff, and Jim and Mike were welding. Now we're right at 40 employees, producing for a couple different heavy equipment manufacturers in North and South America, and even exporting a little bit. And yeah, that's the long, short, the kind of high level view of Big Gun Robotics and what we're doing.
That's great. Thank you, Lee. I've always thought, I've known, picked up pieces, having been on site a few times of that story, and it's kind of cool to hear it all together. There's a lot of similarities to both like early Cetec and just kind of scrapping. They're living on beans and basically unemployment.
Find a way.
Man.
All right. So summarizing all that, like if you skip to the end, things are reasonably, stable-ish. But you guys have had a bit of a complicated relationship specifically with Cetec ERP even. And I think that's kind of a nice thing to talk about, because like your story is one of like deep frustration.
Well, people don't talk about this enough. Like there's like frustration with an ERP is, well, it's common. You get all kinds of like funny nicknames for all of them, and like everybody ends up having some kind of rub with their ERP. So
it's like a relationship.
So it's good to like that we can be on this side of things, and
I thought you might walk us through kind of the valley of the shadow of dark times of Cetec here, and like what were all the bad things that got into that situation? What did you try to do? Well, just start with the bad, and then we'll talk about what were your decisions from that, and then we'll talk about how it ended up. So just say bad things for a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that's easy. No, I'm kidding. So I'm glad you brought that up. That shows a lot about the character of the outfit you guys are running and what you care about. I'll say it at the preface though. A lot of it is just, I had to have a paradigm shift in my way of thinking. When I first came into this, we were staring down the barrel of having to scale our operations into a landscape that we were unfamiliar with, without ever letting our customer expectations and the things that we built our name upon ever fall. And so we had to keep that, we had to maintain that status quo, but we understood that we were scaling supply chain logistics to the likes that we never scaled before. And we've had some scaling opportunities in the past, but this was a big one. And I knew that I could not do it without a good system. And so one of the things that attracted me most to Cetec, I'll be completely honest, was just the relational piece. I really loved Taylor. I loved the story of Cetec, but I had this mindset that we have all these problems that we have to overcome, and this system's going to fix these problems. Now I've come out on the other side of that, and before I go into some of the challenges, I just want to say that whenever I had a paradigm shift in my mind to saying, hey, businesses have problems, and this system gave us the ability to gather the data to show us where our weaknesses were, to understand where our problems were, so we could raise the bars. And so one of the things that we experienced early on was we were really focused on trying to get we really wanted to get, it was easy to get our sales books and things like that kind of up to speed in Cetec. We had in our mind a certain way that we've always built our product, and we were asking Cetec to say, hey, we build it this way. I understand, some manufacturing companies may do this and may do that, but we want it specifically built out the way that we want it built out. And so you guys helped us along and came in and kind of worked with us to understand what we do, and helped us to kind of recognize things the way that we need to recognize. And the frustration came in where we were trying to produce output that was based on faulty input. And so we had the nuts and bolts, we had the things in that we thought needed to be there, but we were getting things on the back end that were not that I could not gain confidence in. So, I may would look at one screen and see one set of data, and then I'd go to another screen and I'd see another set of data or something like that. And so I was going to my guys and saying, look, I need confidence. I need to know before we make a call on which way we're going on this. I need to know what we're looking at. And sometimes it would just, the communication would just kind of fall between the cracks there.
Was that on the material purchasing side?
This is mainly on the purchasing side. Yeah. Yeah. And that was one of those things where one of the downsides that we were up against is we never stopped building the same product. So we were building a product that had 12 components in it because we were only welding the components. When we went to welding, painting, and assembling the components, the same exact end goal of the same product now has 150 components from all kind of different countries on it. So we had to transition out of one way of doing things, and the system had to recognize that. And we had to transition into another way of doing things, and the system had to recognize that. And so it's kind of foot in the door of one way and foot out of the door of another way. And so there was a lot of convoluted data that was hard to really decipher through. We found a lot of frustration in that, but you guys have come out on the other end of that. And I've had enough conversation, and of course the conference was fantastic, and being able to see where you guys are headed. You genuinely take the feedback from your customer base, and you're looking to improve on it. We've had the challenges, but I mean, we've came out on the other end of that, and now we're looking at the next steps of how. One of the things I realized most about our system integration, and I come back from when I came back from your conference, I told our guys, I said, guys, our biggest problem with Cetec is that we don't use the system enough. We're trying to use certain features of the system, and there's certain features that we're still working in Excel. There's certain features that we're still trying to work out in accounting software. I said, one of the biggest things that we're trying to do is we got a good input. We have some good ways of getting a good output, and that's ironed out and it's working well, but we're not using it enough. If we use everything in between and we start, continuously improving on these processes, continuing to integrate the system into our productivity, our efficiencies, our quality, the list goes on, routing our jobs and actually mapping out in that system how we actually produce and letting the system run. I mean, I see the potential there, and that's where we're going to head, and that's what we'll be working on over the next couple of months, over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think we had a conversation a few months ago, and I was kind of trying to pick it. You were looking at some other systems. I was trying to figure out who the other girl is, just go to another school or, it's just, just trying to understand. And I think what you just described kind of gave me the other side of the coin, right? Was we have a good working relationship. We trust each other, and we trust that we both have the each other's best interest there, right? That's a good partnership, business partnership. The other side is just can the system just do what you need it to do? And so as you're talking about this, all these other things that we want to integrate, we want to start using is they're there, but it's because the system's built for manufacturing, right? So it's we don't have to go retool a whole ISO. We're just going to start performances and tools and assets.
It's interesting how when you have these entrenched processes with their own little kind of data silos, and these people do everything in Excel, and these people have, their own little accounting module, and these people are doing some kind of order tracking, but then their supervisor also has them log certain, metrics over here in this other, Google Doc, whatever it is. All that data, it's never going to talk to each other, and there's no way to build a really frictionless process for that stuff. And if you try to attack any one of those things, somebody's gonna, look at you like you're grabbing their little kittens from them. So it's
don't touch my kittens.
My kittens. It's tough. And getting everybody onto one system, which is one of the things that we do deeply believe is if we can have a single spot, the amount of data that exists in there just makes everything easier for each and every one of those people. But it is a mountain to get everybody on board there if they're not. That's very tough.
So I have two have two maybe questions. So if you kind of look back on the last, since 12 years, I guess, since 2013, and think about, okay, we're trying to start this business, trying to scale, grow this business. Like, what are one or two kind of key pieces of two things or two key pieces of advice you'd give yourself, 12 years ago to do differently from the outset? Like if you're going to start over,
12 years ago,
what would you have done differently?
The first thing is less of a practical one. It's more of a personal thing, and a mental thing is, I would, if I could go back and talk to myself 12 years ago, I would have told myself to rest a little more in the struggle, and the challenges. It's all going to work itself out. That's not me looking on this side of the story and looking back and saying it worked itself out, and so you should have rested in it. No, I mean, I could be sitting anywhere right now and not have this in front of me, and I think I'd like to think I'd be okay, because there's so much more to there's so much more to life than success. I mean, in business or anything like that. And so I would have told myself, first of all, rest a little more in the challenges, because they build you, and they make you into the person that you're destined to be. And I'm very thankful for that. All right. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is probably a more practical one. Invest. We've always invested in our people. I think that's one of the things we've gotten right. We want our people to come in, do a good job, want to be here, desire to be here, desire to grow, and to be at home and to invest their time into what really matters. And so we've created a work culture that tries to stimulate that. And so one thing I would have told myself probably 12 years ago is not get so hung up on the business aspect as much as that aspect. I wish I would have went more heavy on that early on. We were so hung up on on having to scale the business just to survive that I think we missed a little bit early on of investing into the work culture. You're only as good as your guys, man. And if every guy on this ship that we're steering is not on board at some level, then we're not steering in the direction we need to go, because we truly believe that at the end of the day, that result that comes from that gets to the customer, it gets to the end user, and that's what makes us successful.
Cool. My other question really is, you led me to this. So thinking like 5-10 years, like what's on the horizon?
Look in the other direction here.
Yeah, as you're like settling in processes and a scalable system, it's like, where do you see Big Gun in the next 5 to 10 years?
Away from the rear view mirror into the forward view mirror.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. That's one I think about a lot too. We're putting in the plan and the steps right now to become more systematically integrated. We certainly believe that our key to success is fundamentally grabbing more accurate data and then planning and projecting on that accurate data. Before, it was more reactionary, just by the necessity of where we are. We didn't have much of a choice but to react. I mean, we were just a small company trying to grow. And so now we're still a small company. We still hold on to some of those values, but we're projecting out. We're looking forward. And so one of the things we're committed to with some of our customers is continuous improvement. They operate for profit, and so they want reductions just like we want reductions, and we want to maximize our ability to produce and our efficiencies while increasing our bottom lines and things like that. And so one of the ways we have to do that is by capturing more data points with a level of accuracy that we can make decisions to say, what can we do with this data to improve on our processes and procedures? And then what does that improvement look like financially for this company? Is there an increase in throughput time and a reduction of debt burden, cash flows? Is there a cash flow increase? Whatever it is. And then how much of that can we extend over to our employees? How much of that can we extend over to our customers? And that's how we truly believe that we're going to scale from the bottom and from the top. And so one of the ways that we're going to do that is by becoming more involved in the production models within Cetec. We track a lot of our efficiencies now, but I want real-time data collection. I want material movement through each process and procedures, not just start and finish and cost allocation, first in, first out kind of thing like we're doing now, and not just forecasting. We use the allocation report and the sales forecasting tool. We have that from a material standpoint, from a cost of goods standpoint, from a sales projection. We're missing that from a cost of labor standpoint. And so we're going to look to integrate that more fully into the system over the next couple of years. And we're hoping that produces, again, it doesn't fix any inefficiencies, but it produces the data to where we can look at that and say, here's where we're efficient, here's where we're not efficient, this is where we're going to focus our improvement efforts. And then we have a whole process. We have a team that focuses constantly on continuous improvement and going through their data collection and understanding throughput times at each station and how we can decrease that time and limit part movement where it don't need to be, and then waste and all these things, and then watching that move out into the financial piece. That we have to integrate the financial piece into our system.
Well, yeah, and how does that? I mean, that's excellent, and we're very passionate about the cost capture and having meaningful, valuable data, real time on the floor. And I think I'm continually shocked by how few of our customers actually are leveraging that.
This is like a recurring thing, Lee, for us, is we have a very strong belief that cost capture per job is probably the single most important production metric you can have. And we really struggle to get people to do it, to not just to track the basics of material, but then like, what is your actual labor time? In actual labor time, where was it? Who was it? Are they logging in and out of jobs? And just tracking all of that stuff, because people go on estimate or they go from the P&L, and then the reality of what jobs are actually losing money or making money turns out to be not always off, but off enough to be very meaningful.
Yeah, and where's our bottleneck on the process? Where are things getting hung up when they're on the floor? If you're not capturing any of this, you don't know, like, at what stage of production things are stuck on, and you may not even know how much cost is tied up into that, like that WIP location, and that frees up your cash flow, right?
It turns out to be a real hard problem.
Yeah.
It's easy for us to say, like, well, the software does it, but then, like, in real life, when you have like all these people, you're like, this is not going to be that easy. So
yeah, absolutely. And you start trying to get production workers on board with system things, and you got to get some buy-in there. But absolutely, you guys are speaking exactly what we're seeing. We're looking at P&Ls and then trying to reverse math our way back into some type of cost number, and we can get close, but you're not looking per product. You're not looking per hour, per guy, these kind of things. You may be looking per month or per week or per year, these kind of things.
And my other question, we've had a couple conversations with folks who, one is not against growth, just for a while has had our business is healthy, we're stable, we're able to take care of our people. We could add another shift. We could do all these things too, but we're stable and we're happy and we provide a good value to our customers. So we're not really intentionally trying to grow. And then, another one, they slowed growth so that they can work out a lot of the same things that you're working through. And then eventually we'll have another growth phase where, like, I know you've done more to become a full service provider for one of your primary customers. You mentioned that, doing more assembly, painting, owning more of the process instead of just a couple steps in that, and trying to produce a more built out finished item. But what does growth on the sales side look like? And does that mean more new customers or continuing to expand depth and with your current customer base?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. I think it's both for us. Certainly have opportunities down the pipeline to expand with our current customer base. that's kind of one of the reasons we're focused so heavily on this integration, and is because we're just being pushed in one of our relationships with one of our customers as more of a partnership. But it's being pushed because there is a desire to grow that base, and it's one of those things where you want to grow, but the customer wants to have confidence that you have the ability from the metrics. They want to see the metrics, the ISO compliance, the safety compliance, the productivity metrics that they want to see, and you have to be willing to share a lot of that. And so we're doing some of that. Of course, the system is beautiful, and it helps us to do that real time, and once we're not able to do that. And so we have our biggest customer that we have. We meet weekly with those guys, and we're talking about future growth opportunities. And then we also have other customers that we do we have smaller contracts with that we're looking to scale that with. And a lot of the landscape is changing in manufacturing. I know you guys are getting a lot of that from some of your customers. And so we're looking at expanding with a few other guys as well. And then, we'll eventually look to, get a team out there to expand on those customers that we may not be in contact with next. We're kind of looking at it as like a 3-phase tier. It's the growth with the big customers that we have good order books with. We want to do that, and maybe some type of smart scalable type growth with those bigger customers. Some of those mid-range customers that we have and the smaller customers, how can we extend that and grow that with the capabilities and processes we now have on site, and then going out and finding new customers as well. All 3 phases are really important.
And I've seen this a few times, right? When you're a contract manufacturer, it seems that like your customers, the OEM tends to kind of fall in 2 buckets. They're either kind of like play bully ball, and like they're aggressive and they hound things, and then you have the other side where the OEM is trying to support you through your whole supply chain. So I remember like you specifically talking about your customer, the OEM, is like trying to protect your margins as well as your supplier margins. So they're involved in the whole supply chain, right? Because they have this vision of, and I always found that fascinating, as I've seen some other customers where that
isn't the way that it is.
Yeah, and it like
one of 2 there.
Yeah, so that just creates this whole like relationship. It's like, oh, I want to be in business and support these people, and like it just helps. You're the tier 1. It helps me work with my suppliers of like, hey, let's protect margins and profit all the way down. Like we all can win here.
Absolutely.
And so that's always an interesting observation.
Yeah, the trade of stability there instead of the ruthless. I think there's something where the more integrated you are with your supplier, if they understand that value, they understand how much you are a part of what they are doing, then they hopefully align the interests of like, we can't easily replace you, and you're doing things that are vital to us. So we need to make sure we're both existing and thriving together. You've got a little bit of an ecosystem of, like the ants with the fungus.
Yeah, it's all kind of this like ethos of caring for each other, right? Like we care for our customer, we care for our people, our team, we care for our suppliers, and the people that we work like.
It's the only model that works. The idea is that a healthy model understands that each person has to have a healthy margin. So a healthy company and a good supplier for me is one that's a healthy company, and that requires a healthy margin.
Well, that was pretty good. You just drove us back to the introduction there. Excellent little conclusion you did.
Full circle.
Nice work, Lee.
Well, I'm out of questions.
That was fantastic. Lee, thanks for your time, and thanks for your words there.
Your reflections, your honesty.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity just to share some of our thoughts, and I really appreciate all you guys do for us, and certainly we'll be in touch moving forward on some things. And again, I'm grateful for the opportunities we all have in front of us. So,
are you still drinking fancy coffee?
I drink as much coffee as I can, but black. So I drink it fancy and non-fancy.
Well, black is black is fancy to me. I don't spruce anything. I was just wondering if you could use a bag of beans.
Yes, sir. You send them my way. I'll use the box to send you some mugs back in.
All right, there we go.
Well, I'm sure everyone at Cetec wants one of these.
Fantastic. Amen. That's great. All right, Lee, thank you so much, sir. And until next time, you can find us on YouTube, on Spotify, on every place that podcasts seem to be consumed these days. And, you can do all the usual things. Especially, you can leave us a comment for things that you want us to engage with a little bit more. You can send us an email at podcast@ctecherp.com.
Podcast, is it singular or plural? Singular, because there's only one podcast. Podcast.
It's Build Your Way, not Build Your Ways. It's the Build Your Way podcast. So thanks for your time. And until next time, we'll
Build your way.